I think most people start and quit on that massive action sooner than they should because their sample size is too small.
We all know the guy. He has an idea. It's kind of good.
Yeah.
And he tells you, and you know they're not.
You're not known until you have haters because you're not going to please everyone. So keep hitting it as hard as you can until you get haters. When you've got haters, now you know you're actually starting to get some traction, so you better even put more gas on it.
You do those because you can't just be consistent and go work a construction job for $17 an hour. You're not going to get rich.
Well, you're not taking any risk.
You're not taking any risk.
Yeah.
You got to have those three things.
America's backbone was built on blue-collar business grit, grind, and muscle. This is where you stop working for the business, and the business starts working for you.
Blue Collar Millionaires back again. We're going to talk about why winners win. It's really not that complicated. There's probably more things, but we came up with three.
Yeah.
Let's talk about they take massive action. They're consistent, and they take controlled risks, not random risks, not stupid risks, very controlled.
Not casino gambling risk.
Yeah. I would say it's not even third-party risk.
Yeah.
It's risk on themselves. But I think the number one is they take massive action, and they have a sense of urgency. They have an idea. We all know the guy. He has an idea. It's kind of good.
Yeah.
And he tells you, and you know they're not going to do it.
Right.
Their girlfriend knows they're not going to do
Yeah.
it. They actually know they're not going to do it. You kind of look around like, why are you even talking about this?
Yeah. It's fun to dream. That's what
Yeah.
happens. There's an endorphin rush when you're dreaming.
Yeah, when they get it. And then there's guys who internalize, you do it all the time. We have ideas. And we say, we play on it for a little while, 30 minutes, maybe a weekend. And then once we know that's good, we go with it.
Yeah.
And it's like, it takes place very quick and there's massive action. So what do you see as far as some massive action you took or other people who were really successful?
I think most people start and quit on that massive action sooner than they should because their sample size is too small. I'll give a very good example of this. Right now, one of my service line items, I've got emails going out, and I've not had one response on the email, but I've only had around 150-ish emails go out, and they're getting opened. And my first thought is, I need to go in and start tweaking the copy on it. Not that quit it. And some people might have just said, cold emailing doesn't work. But I did have a quick fleeting thought of maybe I need to go in there and adjust some copy. But I'm like, it's getting open. And I look back when I was doing cold text messages and I was sending out 2,000. And if we got 1% response rate, and that could have been how much, what neighbor, it's not when can you come look. That's not what was considered a lead. It was just a response back from the customer that wasn't an FU or stop. Anything that was on a positive response was considered a lead. And 1% was good. The reality was if I took an average, it was anywhere from 1/4 to 0.5% of responses that we got on 2,000 text messages. Text messages are going to be more often responded because the statistic is people will look at a text message. I believe it was 3 seconds after they receive one, they glance at it. So I'm looking at my emails and I remembered that from previous, and that taught me, hey, don't prematurely kill something right here. Let's get a good sample size so you can actually test and know when you need to adjust. So at 150-ish emails, even though I've gotten no responses and no leads from it, I know I probably need to send it minimum 1,000 before I start to think about doing anything. And probably more likely, I need to get closer to 3,000 or 5,000, I would imagine, because of the fact of the text message is responded so quickly, emails are not going to have as much of a response rate.
I think 1,000's the minimum pretty anything. If you were putting flyers out to cold calls to emails, 1,000, you get a pretty good
So the
share.
sample, the massive action, you might have jumped in, boom, get all these processes set up, start, and then you're like, it's not working. Let me move to something else, but your sample size wasn't big enough. So massive action is also quantity. Make sure you're putting enough quantity in there. I love that. I love to look at other big players, and massive action is the word that stuck with me because I heard Grant Cardone say it first. And whether you like him or hate him, he's very successful. And I look and, man, if you look at his content on what he drops on every channel, it is massive action, and that's why he gets so much lead flow. And he doesn't care if he's got haters. I remember when he said, you're not known until you have haters, because you're not going to please everyone. So keep hitting it as hard as you can until you get haters. And when you've got haters, now you know you're actually starting to get some traction. So you better even put more gas on it. And that's what I'm constantly thinking in my life. And I look at so many people and they're like, well, I don't have, I need an employee. It's too hard to find these team members. It's, I need more leads. And me and you have both have had this conversation. We say, well, what are you doing right now? Well, I've made a couple of phone calls, or I made a couple of posts on Facebook, or I got this LinkedIn post. There's no action behind it.
Yeah.
They expect to have results off of 10 efforts, and it's just not going to happen. We just used the email situation, and you said a minimum 1,000. When I'm going through life trying to get something, it's like I get obsessed with it. Everything that I'm looking for, it's coming out in my conversations. You'll see it on my social media pages. You'll see me talking about it. You'll see me researching on it. And it just takes over my life for a portion until it gets done. And then once it's there, then I move on to the next thing to get obsessed with.
Yeah.
And maybe I'm an addict personality. I've never had that issue before, but I know I've got to create action to be able to get results. And that's where most people fail, and it's such a simple thing to do, but it takes a lot of effort.
One thing I see people do on that is when they take massive action, they go in and they put some effort in, and then, when they don't get that initial thing, even if they continue, they like take the foot off the gas, or they start half-assing it. I do the opposite. If I go in, I try to test it, and if I'm not getting what I knew, I'm trying to. So if you get to 1,000, you don't have it. Emails work because I do them.
Yeah.
And then you got to think about what's your copy, what's your approach, when are
Right.
you sending them at, who am I sending it to? You have to figure out that puzzle. It's kind of fun to do. But a lot of people will just stop, or they'll say, oh, I got to shorten it or whatever. Like, how do I do less? Example of this is like for social media. When I had an idea to start putting posts out. I was one of these guys, like so many people. I had high school friends from Facebook. The only time I was on Facebook is when somebody's saying happy birthday to me. Right. But I saw the power of that. So I'm like, I'm watching people we knew do it.
Yeah.
So I said, I'm going to write a good post every week, like a really good one. I see what works. I could do this. I'm going to write it every Friday, and I'm going to do that for 10 weeks. And I'm going to track it. And what happens is, I told somebody recently I did this. I'll tell you, it worked for me. But what happened with me was I got like 4 comments, 7, 11, 38. And I was like, okay, here we go.
Yeah.
This works. And then I saw people started messing me, and I was really making effort. But I had a friend who did it. He wrote like 3 good ones. And then he went to the kind of the chat GPT kind of thing. And he was like, now I get less. I said, but your quality went down.
Drop down. Yeah.
You got to go the other way.
Yeah.
And then he's, you find a reason I don't have time.
Right.
That's what we do. But if it works, you'll have time. I'm not saying to do it with social media, but anything. If it's cold calling, whatever, I'm going to figure out why. How do I get that a little bit better?
That's right.
Like, that's what you can do when you just have time at night. Instead of doom scrolling, you just sit there for 20 minutes and lay in bed and say, how would I do that better? This is what I'm saying to people on the phone. This is what I'm emailing. This is, how do I make that a little better? We were talking about friction. How do I make it a little less friction?
Right.
You're just looking to make it a little better each time. And that's when you start having that thing. But that takes massive action to do those things.
Takes a ton of effort, and most people aren't willing to do it. And that's why there is so much education online, and there's still so many broke folks, because nobody's willing to put the effort in. It could be as simple as all get out, but they just don't put the effort in, because you got to sacrifice something else in your life. When you want something new, something has to get sacrificed, because all of your minutes and seconds in your 24 hours of a day is taken up by something. And I try to tell my team that, I'm like, look, if y'all want to make more money, if you want to make 6 figures, if you want to go and own your own business or whatever the case is, you've got to start taking in information, and you've got to better yourself and get better every single day. While y'all are watching football games, I'm over here watching YouTube on a particular topic, or I'm reading a Facebook post from someone that's done something and they're putting education, or I've bought a course and I'm moving through the course. What are you spending your time on at the end of the day? So, that's action.
And if you don't want us to trade some of those things in, then you're not going to work anyway.
Then accept where you're at.
Right? people want to say, "Oh, I want time with family." Go do time with your family. Stop doom scrolling.
Yeah,
There's your time.
I agree with that.
Or some people sleep 9.5 hours. They're
Yeah.
laying around.
Yeah.
Get it down to 7.5. There's your 2.5 hours. So different people. But for some people, we have businesses. That's why I don't like 3 businesses, because one of those businesses is going to suffer. So in that case, you're already super busy person. You're doing all these things. Pick one thing and dominate.
Yes.
Let-
Yes. Risk
Yeah.
taking, calculated risk
Yeah.
taking. So I've got an opinion on it. I want to hear yours.
I have a strong one. I'm a numbers guy. There was a book called Numbers. It's all about making decisions with numbers. I was doing that my whole life. I make all decisions with numbers. It's not about emotion. So any risk I'm taking, I do go very conservative. Let's talk about the calls or something. If I'm going to hire a sales guy, I'm going to say, okay, this is what it's going to cost. This is how many calls he
Yeah.
can make. This is how many contacts. This is how many people he'll actually talk to. This is conservatively, I think it'll be this. I'm going to go here.
Yeah.
He'll have this many warm leads. And then I start doing all the numbers. And then I say, that's not risky. If it still is risky, then I got to lower pay. I got to figure out something else. I do that on basically every decision. And when guys just like, oh yeah, I'm just going to throw some money in this and try it out. Like,
Yeah.
I hate that.
Yeah.
Why not talk to that? Like, I want to talk to 3 people who did that.
Yes.
I don't need a month to figure it out. Let me just talk to 3 people really quick.
Yeah.
And they're like, yeah, it worked. Or find out some marketing company you're hiring. I want to talk to people that they've dealt with to make sure. Not necessarily the ones they want me to talk to. I
Right.
just want to pick 3 random customers.
The other thing I see is people will stop because they feel like it's too risky, even after they've done the calculations and they're saying, okay, this is good. And I'll use the example of hiring like upper management or something because salaries are more expensive. So you got $100,000 salary or 100,000 plus wherever your market sits at. And they're looking at it as a whole instead of taking the elephant and eating it bite after bite after bite. Because the reality is it's not 100,000. It's I didn't do the math before we did it, but it's roughly somewhere around $1,700 a week. So take it by the week, and it's not going to take you a whole year to figure out if someone is the right person. And I like how you've said it before. Set the expectation and say, let's try it out. Let's do, a 30-day trial. Let's do a 2-week trial. Let's do a 90-day trial. You should never commit nobody goes into dating a future spouse. Nobody goes into dating and says, oh, yeah, we're going to go on this date and we're getting married.
Right.
Nobody does that. You don't know if it's going to
give
work.
them 2 weeks. It's
Yeah.
one time.
And there's sex involved in that one. You take the sex out of it and you only have the money equation, it's even riskier because you don't have the emotion involved. Or, you're really starting to affect someone. There's not the same benefit. So why would you do that with a future employee? You sit there and you let them know, hey, we're going to try each other out. We think we like each other based off of paper, but let's see.
We just hired someone, a partner and I think it's extremely likely she'll stick around. But I gave her, say, hey, this was on Thursday, say the next 2 Thursdays from now, 2 weeks, let's sit down and talk, make sure you're happy, we're happy, and we'll see if we want to continue. I almost have it's a cutoff date.
Right.
So it's not like, and she was like, oh, okay. She liked it. The way I worded it was, I want to make sure you're happy with it.
Mm-hmm.
And assuming everything's good, we'll push. Then I'll do another 30 days.
Right.
After that, maybe 90. And then we already know what's going to happen. I do that to so many people because then you have this out.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't understand that. Like I get for some companies, like you have an attorney, they're flying across the country. That's a lot scary. Then you got to do multiple interviews.
Right.
We're just talking about hiring somebody for your small business.
Right.
I like a 2-week thing. If they don't feel comfortable with that, I word it so it's really about if they just do all the things we're planning on and they're happy and I want to make it an out, then I'm going to continue because I got so much work. So if they're lying to me and they're not who they say they are, they probably don't want that position.
Right. Well, at the end of the day, that right there makes them think, I've got to prove myself. This is not a done deal. And I don't want someone walking through my door putting on my brand if that's not their attitude anyway. So you're also finding culture fit when you set it up like that because there's not a guarantee. There's nothing guaranteed in life.
Yeah.
What is the Ray Charles movie? Ain't nothing guaranteed in life, baby, but Jesus. So I sit there and I think about that, and I'm like, setting these expectations and communicating this way actually ends up getting you in the culture to where it's a performance culture. Those type of people are walking through that door because they realize if this is going to work and I'm going to stick around, I got to be able to prove that I'm good, and I like that.
I like it too.
So, what about consistency?
Consistency is such a huge one, and everybody overlooks it. But I've been consistent for 35 years. I just get up, I get to work. I don't worry about. I worked weekends. I didn't worry about long days and everything. If you get that in your head, like, hey, I'm going to do this. I remember something my dad said. I didn't really love it when he told me, but I was like 16 or 17. He says, I was trying to be an entrepreneur and everything. And he says, whatever you do, make sure you like it and you can do it for a long haul because you're going to be doing it for a long time. And I remember because in my mind, I was thinking I'll be retired when I'm like 24 or something like that.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll go to the NBA or something. He was like, no, you're going to be doing it when you're my age and probably further. But he says, make sure you like it. So I had that mentality. So then when I didn't even like it, I just had this idea of like, hey, I'm comfortable just getting up and doing this all the time. And that's a win, actually. You get confidence. And I was telling you, a friend of ours was talking to me. He said, one of the advantages you had in 2008 when I went down was he said you had 15, 16 years of consistency before that.
Yeah.
So you knew you'd do the work. Now you just had to figure out these new problems you had. And I think a lot of guys can figure out problems, but they don't believe they'll do the work because they take a lot of
Else.
They take else. They've done it with diets. They've done it with workouts. They've done it in other things in life, and they start to doubt themselves. Everybody's done that. But for that, in my opinion, like you can control that. You can control effort.
Yeah.
And that gave me, when I was going through all that, I was like, I know I can control getting up. I know I can control how I eat, work out, and show up with lots of effort for work. The other stuff, things that happen, I can't really control. But if I do this, I knew that I never had a question of, when I was at that exit party, I never thought I wouldn't. I knew I would be there.
Yeah.
Maybe not at that amount,
Right.
but I knew
Right.
I'll turn this all the way back around because I was just going to go until. I think if people have that attitude, it's inevitable.
I believe that, and I do also believe consistency is heavily rooted in belief. And maybe in the beginning you borrow the belief until you can build your confidence up, but most people do quit and they're like, I just don't think it's going to work, and it's because they don't believe that they'll work it.
Yeah.
It's not the fact that it won't work. I think we can find a ton of examples if we wanted to sit there and chat GPT, when things didn't work and other folks saw it would work. And first thing I'm thinking of is the 4-minute mile. Like everybody said it was impossible to do, and then it was done, and then everybody's belief system changed, and then it started being replicated over and over again by different runners. And what we forget is it's those little bitty small things of consistency that builds the W's to overcome the big L's that we've taken in the past life. In my 20s, I took a ton of L's because I didn't put the work in. And then I had to start building my mind up and getting borrowed belief from individuals that had put content on YouTube and podcasts out there. And then I started doing small practices like every morning I would go and I'd get up and do my push-ups, set-ups, and squats. And then I would wake up at a certain time. And then I would go to work and I would spend a certain amount of time at work. And then I would have certain activities and quantity of activities that I would do. And these little daily wins every single morning, waking up at 5 when I didn't want to get up at 5. Like my body did not want to get up at 5. I'm one of those 8-hour kind of guys, and that's where I feel the best. And so if I was up the night before and I've got to get up at 5, it was a push, but I would make myself get up. I didn't want to work out, but I would make myself work out. All of a sudden I start seeing my physique change. As soon as I'm done with the workout, my psychology and everything has changed because I've accomplished something. And biologically, I'm sure there's a bunch of stuff that other folks could describe that happens when you get done working out. And I just win at a different cadence through the day. But most people never start with the micro wins, like waking up on time, doing the gym, eating clean, calling the person you said you was going to call, doing the task you said you need to do, and write it down and stick it on the calendar, and fulfilling the promises they made to themselves. Those are the W's. And all of these little W's equal up to a massive confidence in yourself. And then when it freaking hits hard and everything's falling apart, then you trust yourself and you believe in yourself. You may whine just for a second, but you push through and you make it happen. And that's a real winner right there.
Yeah.
When you see these big athletes winning big, it's not because they went home eating Oreos after every game. They're in the gym before and after, and they're watching what they do to their body because they know their body is the instrument for them to be able to win. And they're watching their game footage and all this other stuff. And it's the same thing in business. Like, what are you doing to set yourself up so that you're consistent in efforts that are positive to produce a really positive result? Most people are just producing crap. That's why they have crap results.
Well, those are the three things: maximum effort, controlled risk. Got to take some risks,
100%.
but you got to be controlled about it. Don't be wild. And then consistency. If you do those, because you can't just be consistent and go work construction job for $17 an hour, you're not going to get rich.
Well, you're not taking any risk.
You're not taking any risk.
Yeah.
You got to have those three things. So we had an incredible event last week in Atlanta, BoardRoom Elite.
Amazing.
It was awesome. Lots of people came. All those people are in our Elite. All they had to do was get in the monthly thing. It's only $1,000 a month. We teach virtually. We do 3 events a year. We're going to do another one first quarter of 2026.
Weekly calls.
Yep. BlueCollarMillionaire.net. You go on there, all the info, and you'll see the photos of it and everything. You can meet great people.
See y'all next week.